Hey guys, it's Courtney Carson from Cosmic Clarity Astrology, and I'm super excited today to dive into the Libra full moon that's happening on April 1st. This is a major period of time, you guys, for a number of reasons. First of all, we just started the astrological new year that happens every time the sun enters Aries. And of course, you can see on the chart that the sun is in Aries and the moon is opposite in Libra. So the astrological new year is basically a true start to the year where we're having this fresh start, this fresh energy, and we're being pushed into a new sense of reality. And this is going to probably feel a little bit stressful and a little bit troubling in certain ways, but also exciting and stimulating and adventurous. And I'm going to dive into all of that in just a second. But I want you guys to know what else is really important about this time, and it's the fact that all planets are direct. This is a very rare and short window astrologically that gives us this kind of momentum and this unhindered energy to move forward. So it is imperative that we take advantage of times like this, despite our discomfort, despite our anxiety, or the resistance, that we might feel because of our basically our evolution or our elevation. And we're really entering again into a new chapter, a fresh start. And it's easy to say that all the time, but this is truly something like massive right now. And I think a lot of us are feeling that. Let me know in the comments below what massive transitions you are personally going through. I think many of us have been going through a sort of spiritual awakening since the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in February, but really those planets have been moving around and near each other since the summer of 2025. So we've been having these kind of moments of awakening, and now we're really starting to activate this Saturn-Neptune conjunction that's showing us what isn't working in our life, what we want to move towards, having us question our framework of reality. And again, these planets are really being almost like pushed on or exacerbated because of the sun in Aries aligning with them. And as you can see, Saturn is here at 5 Aries, Neptune 2 Aries, and the sun 12 Aries. So they're all clustered together at those kind of first half of Aries. So if you have planets around those degrees, or any of the cardinal signs, the first 15 degrees of the cardinal signs, like Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn, you are really going to be feeling this massive push right now to elevate that area of your life. For example, I have my Mercury within those degrees in Cancer, and Mercury is my career planet. It rules my 10th house of career, and I've been feeling such a push to evolve and change and move my career in a new direction, and I feel that my soul is calling me towards this. So it's almost like this awakening, this calling towards something bigger or larger that many of us will be feeling, especially those, again, in those first 15 degrees of the cardinal signs. But of course, with any awakening and with any major call to action, we are kind of stepping from a more passive energy where when Neptune and Saturn were in Pisces, we were more observers. We were a little bit more, I guess, on autopilot or in the back seat of our lives. And that was fine because we were going through different spiritual processes at the time. Now we are entering into a different phase where energy, momentum, action, and agency become highlighted. And so we're kind of shifting from that passive to an active gear. And when we do that, we really have to take stock of our personal responsibility and where we need to make changes in our life in order to actually move towards that spiritual calling that our soul is really asking of us. So this is a time of development where we are meant to be looking with Saturn so close to the sun and so close to an opposition with the moon. We're really needing to be looking at the development of our identity, of the structures of our lives, of the foundations of things, and how to plan long term. And that is often the case when we have a full moon squaring Jupiter. There's usually some type of vision and clarity that's coming forward for us, and that Saturn on the sun is helping us ground that vision into an actual logistical, operational strategy instead of just something that feels exciting to us. And this full moon is really building off of the past Libra new moon, which took place in October, And that new moon was also squaring Jupiter. So this could have been an idea that's been percolating for some time. And if that's the case, this is really the time now to make these kinds of, I want to say, sacrifices, or I guess clarifying your vision in a way that focuses and hones in on what really matters. It's a time of prioritizing, of making something central to your life instead of adding more and more layers and more possibilities. So that is in a way kind of sacrificing, because you're having to cut down on the vision in order to make it, again, focused and clear and potent. This could feel somewhat of a solo journey, and that's very common when we have, even though this is a Libra full moon and we could be thinking a lot about relationships and partnerships and collaboration. The Sun and Saturn, Neptune, and Aries, and Chiron are all in Aries. So we're still having this major focus on our individual development, especially when it comes to our long-term legacy. Relationships, of course, play an important role in this. None of us are an island. None of us can make this happen alone. But I do think that there is a huge focus now on what you need to do as an individual to create this legacy, what your individual calling is, what you need to stand up for or stand against in order to make something happen, what you need to cut away or not participate in. And relationships could potentially be something that gets in the way right now, or can be the thing that really makes that difference in your personal evolution and transformation. And I think we're going to be at this kind of crossroads, almost like this breaking point of where we realize this person is helping on my journey or this person is hindering my journey. And we're going to need to confront that and maybe evolve certain relationships as a result of these realizations. One of the reasons I say that is because, of course, this is a Libra full moon. And again, Libra is a sign of partnerships and relationships. So we're going to be thinking about that. The ruler of this moon, Venus, is in her domicile in Taurus, so she's really comfortable in this placement, but she is squaring Pluto, and Pluto always brings some kind of degree of psychological crisis. So this could be happening within a relationship dynamic or within yourself. And so what this will typically look like is having some realizations that certain relationships are toxic or have shadows or things that have been going on behind the scenes that are diminishing your returns or diminishing your sense of confidence and your ability to actualize your dreams. And you will start to become aware of that toxicity or those patterns as they bubble up to the surface. You might find that other people are quite controlling, or that they try to influence you, or that they get in your head, or that they just somehow make you feel off balance in your life. It's also possible that this is happening on an internal level where you really feel like you're overthinking things. Libra is a sign of balance, and often as a sign of balance, it's considering every single perspective equally. And that is something that Aries, where the Sun is and where Saturn and Neptune are, just cannot do. Aries needs to cut away. It needs to focus. It needs to consider the biggest priority, the main point of view, rather than what will suit everybody or every perspective. And because of that, it can create some anxiety here as we're being pulled between these two ways of being or ways of thinking. With Venus squaring Pluto, we could get a little bit in our heads about, again, all the possibilities or weighing different things out, or maybe this person said this and this person wants this, and the way that things create kind of inner conflict and muddy our sense of direction and clarity of focus. So that is one of the stressors that can come from Venus square Pluto. It's also possible that we could just feel anxious in general, not just because we have a lot of opportunities, but because we're confronting our next level devil. And basically, every time we evolve as a soul, there's always that threshold that we have to pass through that does involve some degree of struggle or maybe suffering, not in a bad way, but just like a baby being born is kind of traumatic for the baby and the mother, definitely the mother. But yeah, I mean, you're kind of being squeezed through this tunnel and into a whole different life where you were in this really soft, comfortable space before, and then you're being pushed again through this passageway, which is this full moon right now. And then at the new moon in Aries, which should be 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks from the first, we are kind of emerging out in the real world, and then we have to figure out this totally new environment. So right now we're passing through that birth canal of life, and it does constrict, it does kind of contort and apply pressure to some of our more sensitive things, to some of our neuroses and uncertainties and our fears and our worries. And so that's what Pluto does. It always will trigger those things from the depths of us. And they're often linked with things from the past, even a past life, where maybe something went wrong. And so now those fears kind of have little roots within us. And then once we evolve and pass through a birth canal, those roots are brought to our attention. So that is something that I think a lot of us could be going through. But this is a time of developing resilience, of developing courage, of strength and confidence. And the only way to do that is to challenge that. So the only way to know you are strong is to make sure that you are challenging your sense of strength and confidence, right? You don't know that your muscles are strong until you put weight on them and see. So there's this element of being tested, not in like a negative way of like, oh, there's a right and a wrong answer, but there's a testing here of one's capacity, which I mentioned in the last video. If you haven't watched, definitely check out that overview. We're testing our capacity, we're testing our strength, our resilience, and our clarity of direction, and our ability to have conviction for our goals and our sense of a direction desires. And this could also be applied to relationships. Again, this is a relationship full moon because of this Libra sign. And there are going to be relationships that, when put through the test of your evolution, of the way that you are showing up differently in your life, if people don't fit into that new equation, if they somehow block you, thwart you, or get in the way in some capacity, I think you'll find that you're quite disappointed with them. I think that you could feel this sense of maybe loss or just something not going right. And it could feel like either the relationship needs a major update and needs to be addressed in some way, or maybe that person doesn't necessarily have that same place and level of influence and impact on your life moving forward. So those are some really major things to consider. I think ultimately there are a lot of things that we don't know yet. And this, I think, speaks to Jupiter squaring this full moon. Jupiter can give us, especially in Cancer where it's exalted, it's very intuitive, and it can give us this kind of insight into the future. It can give us this vision and this sense of inspiration and what we're meant to be doing. But there's always going to be some element of that is not disclosed, right? Like we can see that there is a vision, almost like a mirage on the horizon, but we don't actually know what it's going to feel like, or the steps that we have to take, or the skills that we have to develop to get there. We can have a rough idea, but the only way to have certainty about something like that is to act. We can prepare, we can plan, we can do our best, but we cannot fully anticipate all of the unknowns and curve all of that as we move forward. We have to learn on the go. We have to experiment, which is the very nature of Uranus, which is a very, very prominent placement in the months that are coming up. Not exactly at this full moon, but it is relevant. But regardless, there is this energy of experimentation that we need to be okay with, and to make mistakes, to fix, to get back up, to have that strength, to have that resilience and that courage to continue to focus on the long-term mission rather than get distracted or downtrodden because of something going wrong. And so we need to be able to embrace the vision while understanding that we are going to have uncertainties and hiccups along the way, but that's not meant to deter us. This is a long-term plan. This is a legacy, and to have patience with ourselves is going to be really important. And I think that speaks to Venus and Taurus, that things in certain ways might take longer than we expected, and then in other ways they might happen a lot faster, with Uranus soon moving into Gemini. So we're going to have kind of an interesting mix of the two of those things going on. I also think that our idea, I pulled the Ten of Swords and the Justice card. I think that like our idea of fairness could be changing. With the Ten of Swords and the Justice, I also wonder, this could be speaking to more like a governmental or collective scale of something happening where it could feel like it's an end to justice, or like it's yeah, like some level of balance and fairness and equality is being corrupted here. So if there is usually, I don't know, this could speak to relationships, especially with that Venus square Pluto. Sometimes there can be this sense of, yeah, I don't know, like competition or um complicated energy within relationships where people are pinned against each other in some capacity or are jealous of one another. So that could really be something that comes up right now, like where you used to maybe feel like, oh, we all get along and we all have fun, and this is such a like, you know, we're all in this together. That mindset right now could be different. It could be altered, where people are a lot more every man for himself, or, I really need to do this for me. I'm not considering this other person. I'm usually thinking fairly, or this person's usually thinking quite fairly and about justice, and now they're not thinking about me. So there's a little bit more of this sense of ruthlessness that Pluto can bring to the equation, especially when squaring Pluto, or squaring Venus, sorry. So just a warning, basically, and not that we have to like do a lot of things about it, but I think really, I think one of the best things we can do with the Temperance and the Eight of Wands is to focus on ourselves. The Temperance is a very balanced card. It's a card of moderation and stillness and a sense of peace that we have within ourselves that is non-reactive. And so I think that one of the biggest things that we can do right now is be moving through a centered place. Don't react. Don't have, big, not have big feelings, but allow your feelings to kind of simmer and process. I will say sometimes Jupiter, even though it's exalted in Cancer and can bring us a lot of optimism and a sense of, a silver lining and joy in a situation, it can also exaggerate our feelings. It can also make something feel bigger or more potent than it actually is in the long term. So my biggest piece of advice is, if you feel like people are being unfair, or there is some kind of situation that has been like toxic or imbalanced in some relationships in some way, almost to just kind of detach yourself from that, or try not to have a big reaction to it. Try to deprioritize that. And instead, with the Eight of Wands, I feel like there are a lot of things going on in our personal lives and in terms of our goals and the things we want to really get into motion. That is where the focus and energy should be. And again, relationships could be a distraction at this point for the clarity and the mission of the Sun in Aries. I also think relationships can improve and add to your vision, but that might be a little bit less like, that might be not happening at this time because of this square from Venus to Pluto. It might be better to just kind of push the noise out from the outside world or from people around you or from distracting relationships. Focus on your mission, and then when a better time comes, which is not really even at this next new moon, but I'm assuming, I haven't looked at the astrology of the next full moon, but I'm assuming that sometime like that will be better for relationships to come into the picture. I definitely think the idea of partnership is going to become relevant as we move forward over this year. But at this specific period of time, it might be more helpful to be in a sort of hermit mode and to focus on getting your goals up and running. I think this is going to be really important to do the preliminary work before Uranus moves into Gemini, because things are going to move very, very fast. So we need to set the foundations now. We need to clarify the vision. We need to focus on ourselves. We need to do our best to get our mood and our emotions under control and not pour energy and attention into relationships and the fluctuations and issues there. And we need to focus on what matters in terms of our personal values and priorities and the things that we're trying to see succeed in this year ahead. So a really, really major time for vision casting and clarifying your goal and your mission and setting out a strategy. And again, kind of drowning out the noise from the relationships and outside world. So that's the major message here for you guys. So I'd love to hear in the comments down below, what is the thing that you feel your soul is calling to? It's some kind of spiritual awakening, some kind of threshold that we are crossing over into, some kind of elevation. And again, if you have any planets around this first 15 degrees of the cardinal signs, that's where you're going to be feeling it the most. So let me know in the comments down below what area of life that's impacting, and I will see you guys in all the signs forecast. All right, up first we have Aries rising and sun. This full moon in Libra is taking place on April 1st in your 7th house. This is the first full moon of the astrological new year. It is a time when all planets are finally direct. And of course, we have a cosmic pileup, especially with the sun in your sign, Aries. So this is a really momentous time. This is a time to have courage. You did get the squirrel card, which speaks of acting with courage and a balanced mindset. So if you have fear, that's okay, move forward anyway, but be cautious and don't get ahead of yourself. There's this idea that I described in my last video that you should definitely watch if you haven't already, the last new moon video, where I was talking about channeling our energy, pacing ourselves, and acting in accordance with our plans and not necessarily like these spurts of energy. So keeping consistency is going to be the biggest thing, and not just push all of our energy out at once. So that's going to be a really big message for you guys if you are overly excited to kind of taper that energy back or channel it into something that you can use consistently, not to get rid of the energy, but to make sure that you dole it out over time. If you are cautious, if you are afraid, this is your sign to move forward anyway. And in particular, the area that you might need to see some type of evolution with this full moon is around your relationships, business partnerships, and your commitments that you do with an entity, organization, or another person. And that's because, of course, this is a full moon in the 7th house, which is very much the house of diplomacy and relationships and partnerships. And this could feel somewhat challenging because of Venus squaring Pluto at this time. It could feel like it brings up a lot of feelings within you. And I think part of what the big evolution is recognizing where your self-worth is and what you bring to the table. With Venus in your 2nd house, the 2nd house often describes, again, like what you know you have to offer within a relationship. And so there could be some challenges to that where you're almost trying to find your place, find your footing. At times you might doubt what you have to offer or maybe diminish it. At times you might try to fit yourself into a mold of maybe an expectation you think others have of you. You might at times question yourself as well, and kind of like who plays what role, who plays what dynamic within these relationships or these groups. And that could cause you a bit of anxiety. So this full moon here is going to help you almost with this Page of Cups. I feel like it's going to help you listen to more of your intuition. The Page of Cups is also quite like playful as well. So there is a strong emphasis here on really allowing yourself to flourish in a natural way without having maybe the burden of judgment and expectations that can really wither our creative spark. So there's something about this that you bring to the table, Aries, that is almost like this unadulterated, infinite potential of creativity and magic. And maybe you've been comparing yourself or not understanding what your unique gifts are or your unique selling point is or your unique positioning within a dynamic. So you might at times doubt yourself because of that. It's also possible with this full moon that you could have certain fears in relationships where if you are partnering up with somebody or if you are a part of a business or in a relationship, you might fear at times that your independence, what you're used to in terms of independence and being able to call all the shots and do everything alone, you might have fear around relinquishing some of that control or being somehow squashed within a dynamic. And this full moon is here to tell you to keep going and to act with patience and balance and moderation. And that could be challenging at times, but we are really meant to not be reactive at this point. Even if you have a little bit of clash of wills or you're not sure exactly your place versus their place or something along those lines, you're still meant to really trust that you have something special to offer and that it will work itself out. The tension, if there is any tension, will become something that eases, and you will gain natural clarity as you continue to commit and move forward. So not giving up and not reacting in a big way is really essential here. With the Wheel of Fortune, again, I really think that things are going to start turning in your favor. They might be a little bit triggered at this next new moon, which will be 2 weeks from the 1st. So I think, what is that, the 15th? Around the middle of the month, we'll have an Aries new moon, which is going to be conjunct Chiron. Things might get a little bit wonky around then, but they will turn out in your favor, especially as we get towards the end of this month. They'll start moving in a way that I think progresses you quite nicely, especially when Uranus moves into Gemini and then will sextile your Aries placements. I think, again, that you might have just felt like you have to defend or like clarify who you are and what you have to offer. And I just really, really get the sense that this is almost a mirroring effect, where if somebody is questioning your prices, or if somebody is pushing back on your natural gifts and your ideas that you bring to the table, or if there's any kind of clash like that, I feel like it's almost a internal projection or reflection of sometimes the doubt that you might have of yourself. So with the Ace of Cups, I feel like you're meant to be really leaning into the playfulness of your own personality. Come back to what is fun about this, what is creative about this, what's intuitive, inspiring about this. And you can even see the sun coming out and blinding me right now, guys, while it's raining. So that might be a message too, of like things could be seeming like they're emotionally producing quite a bit with you, but there's also this sense of growth and clarity and opportunity that's still within the storm clouds. So even if there's some discomfort around relationships, I do think that you are meant to continue to collaborate with somebody. That was a message coming through in the last moon as well. And yeah, continue to collaborate, and in that process, remain true to your like inner child and your playfulness and your creativity and your natural gifts and the confidence that you have in them, and you will start to see that the other person softens around that and reflects the self-worth that you feel as well. The last message here is that this moon is making a square to Jupiter in your 4th house. So there may be some element of moving homes or getting out of the comfort of stability or emotionally becoming more vulnerable or more intimate. Let's see. We have the 8 of Swords. Yeah, I think previously where you may have held yourself back from your own, like through your own self-doubt, this square to Jupiter in the 4th is helping you gain this sense of self-worth, and not limit yourself as you would have previously, and maybe not even been aware of it. So that's your message, Aries. I hope that this is helpful for you. And if so, let me know in the comments down below. And please hype my video. I am trying to grow my channel, so I really appreciate any support like that. And I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, next we have Taurus rising and sun. So this Libra full moon happening on April 1st is taking place in your 6th house. And this might be an interesting time for you guys because Venus is the shared planetary ruler for both Taurus, your sign, and Libra, the sign of this full moon. And Venus is going through a little bit of a stressful dynamic because while it's in your planetary sign, while it's in Taurus, your sign, it is squaring Pluto in your 10th house. So I get the sense that you guys are feeling potentially a little bit more pressure right now, especially when it comes to things like work. With the Sun and Saturn and Neptune moving through your 12th, you might be going through a process of transition. You might feel like you are in a liminal phase in life. And at times it could create additional stress, not having an exact clear idea of where you're going or how things are going to work out. Things maybe have left your life. Maybe an opportunity that you thought was going to be here didn't manifest, or maybe somebody transitioned, into the spiritual realm, or maybe you lost a work opportunity. It's possible to have endings transpire, that could be part of what is throwing you into that liminal phase of uncertainty and transition within your life. Venus, again, in your home sign, Taurus, is really helping you to reconnect with yourself, to reconnect with your identity and who you want to become in this next chapter of your life, even in that state of uncertainty and confusion at times. The square to Pluto, though, does kind of challenge the existing identity. So maybe you had a previous plan right now that is being, I don't know, like thwarted in some type of way. So it's like the expectations that you had for something maybe didn't quite reach to where you thought they would, or again, maybe you had some kind of plan and now new ideas are coming and forming and pushing out that old plan. There's an idea here that something that you were building yourself upon, or again, anticipating in some way, is shifting under your feet. And that's, again, why we can often feel this sense of anxiety or uncertainty in this liminal phase. With the Devil in reverse and the Eight of Swords, I feel like you are also coming out of a phase where you were kind of limited based off of your perspective. Again, I think that you thought, oh, things are going to go this way, or I have this expectation or whatever. And then when they didn't quite meet, it could create some anxiety. But what you didn't realize is you were actually building that kind of idea or that plan or that vision with a really limited amount of information or a limited scope of vision. And maybe it was built also off of like small, like thinking small. So it's like, okay, let's say, for example, that you really want some kind of new work opportunity and you're excited about it and you're like applying for this job at McDonald's. Let's say, not to hate on McDonald's because this isn't judgment, but maybe there's something like that where you're trying to apply for this kind of more mundane type of job, and then you keep getting rejected and you're like, what the heck? I had this whole plan. I was going to make this extra money. I knew I was going to get that job, of course. And then they wouldn't even hire me. And that's God saying, okay, there's a better, more fruitful plan that is actually a bigger vision that you wouldn't have thought about because you automatically maybe discounted it or just didn't even consider it to begin with because of a limiting belief or limiting scope. And so I feel like the universe is taking away or blocking or removing you from a smaller container. So, and you are kind of in this process of transition to a larger container with the Ace of Cups. It's something that is like a brand new spark of emotional fulfillment that can come. Maybe it's a new relationship. Maybe it's a new idea within your career or something that is going to something else entirely. I mean, it could be so many things. I hate to like list examples because I don't want to exclude people, but it's something that is going to be very emotionally fulfilling for you and something that also activates your intuition. So if you were trying to put yourself into a role that was really super like standardized, I guess, I feel like you, and maybe rote or somewhat mechanical, I see you guys embracing a type of relationship or environment or career or new place that is more adapted to your natural talents, that is more authentic. But you're not quite there yet. Especially at this full moon, I don't think that you're quite there. You might have some clarity around it a little bit, but I really feel like it's going to take a little bit more time. And because of that, it could cause this sense of pressure and stress because of Pluto and Aquarius squaring that Venus. And I do think that you're going to have some level of clarity and optimism, even if the full equation isn't here, because this full moon is squaring Jupiter in your third. So you could get some really good news or a new idea, or like have this kind of potential seed come into your life. Something around communication and thoughts that could come in that green lights something for you. What else, Spirit? But again, I still think with the sun on the 12th, it's not until the sun moves into Taurus that you're really going to have full energy and capacity for this. Okay, so yeah, we have the Tower and the Star. Yeah, again, I feel like something is leaving your life, and it could have felt foundational, or it could feel scary at times to feel without that firm foundation. But the Star card is saying have hope, because something really incredible is taking its place. And I want you to continue remembering that you are being moved into a bigger container. And in order to do that, you have to let go of what you have now in your current environment. But there's something, I also pulled a tree card for you. There's something here that is permanent or long lasting, even beyond the scope of time. And that's something that you can tap into. Maybe this is your higher self. Maybe this is something deeper within you that feels consistent and rooted. Maybe this is your faith, or some kind of creative practice that you have, or maybe family or whatever. It's something that I think that you're meant to be coming back to. Again, I think that you're going to grow into something like a bigger container, but I think it's ultimately going to be almost like a new ecosystem where a lot of other things, a lot of other branches are going to spurt off of. So there's a lot being put into works for you, and it's going to be a large vision or a large opportunity. And so keep that in mind as you're moving through this liminal phase. So that's what I see for you, Taurus. I hope that is helpful and resonates. If it does resonate with you, I'd love to hear from you in the comments about how it's applying to your life. And I appreciate if you would hype and like this video, because I am trying to grow my channel, and any kind of support in that way, again, is super appreciated. And I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next you have Gemini rising and sun. This Libra full moon happening on April 1st is taking place in your 5th house. And the main message that came through in the card for you guys that I pulled was this bear spirit, which is about having a sense of balance. A full moon in the 5th house is meant to be a house that engages our sense of joy and pleasure and rest. It is a house associated with children, but it's also a house associated with vacation. So I think, Gemini, part of what this full moon is about for you guys is going to be about having a mix of hobbies and things that bring you joy, and friendships and connections and family, along with your long-term goals, along with your delayed gratification, along with the things that you are building to create structure in your life, which is very 11th house Saturn. It's going to be so essential to find a natural rhythm to move in and out between these things. And it may be hard at times to rest. With the planetary ruler Venus of this moon in the 12th, squaring Pluto in the 9th, I think you're meant to change your relationship to rest, as well as to kind of these periods of lulls, I guess, or like low energy or introversion. If you are feeling more hermit mode, or if you have a lot of things in fluctuation and in transition in your life, it's really important to be able to lean into the season of life that you're in. If you are in flux and in transition, it's important not to spend your energy externally, hanging out with all those people and doing all these things, because that's just not that period of time. It's almost like in winter, if you're very, very active in winter, when you're meant to be active in summer, and saving your energy for the winter and being more indoors in winter. It's like respecting the season of life that you're in. So I think a big part of this full moon is about understanding how to do that and rest with greater ease. But I think with Venus squaring Pluto in the 9th, you might have some certain beliefs around what it means to be in transition. You might have beliefs around what it means to be in a hermit mode and isolated. You might have beliefs if you're, sick and you need to rest, or you need to unplug, or you feel a little bit like you need to kind of recharge your battery. You might have a lot of beliefs around that cause some stress, that create friction internally. Instead of that, how can we create a sense of what our priorities are and make time for all of those priorities, and reflect those priorities to the season of life that we're in? We can't always have the same priorities, because If you are sick, your priority for health needs to go to the top. If you're behind on a project, your priority for work needs to go before everything else. So there's something here around really understanding that you are not only allowed to shift your priorities, but you are encouraged to do so. This full moon is squaring Jupiter in the second. And so again, I think you're really going to get a kind of rewiring in your beliefs through this Jupiter in the second around what is valuable. And this could also pertain to money as well, and like hustle and work. Not that those things aren't a priority, because we do have Mars in the 10th. We have your North Node there. We got Mercury there. So there is still a push towards your career endeavors. But it's also okay to take some time off and rest. It's also okay to, again, be in a state of needing to plan or to dream or to work behind the scenes on something before you go out into the world. So it's important to, again, recognize what is going to serve the holistic ecosystem of your life in the long term and in each season. And Jupiter in the second, I think, can help you find that sense of abundance in different activities. Okay, so we also have the Empress and the Hangman in reverse. So I feel like part of what you're meant to learn is that there is also abundance in the times of rest, because the Hangman is often where you are just inactive in certain ways. So there is abundance in this in rest and not always just going. This can be a Gemini problem too, is like this overstimulation of the nervous system. And then also this could represent needing to change and turn on our head what our idea of abundance actually is. Because making more money or reaching certain milestones in our life isn't inherently abundant. I think that, again, reconceptualizing what it feels like to be abundant and what would create that feeling in your life as an individual is important, because we can often adopt what society tells us and then we think that's what we need, when in reality we might want and need something else. So this could be about redefining what is prosperity for me, and you might find that you actually have a lot of that in your life already. We also have the Six of Wands, Six of Cups, and Nine of Swords. I also think that there's some kind of fear here potentially around putting yourself out there and taking some kind of chance. With the Six of Wands, this can represent a public-facing role in some capacity. So maybe there is, especially with this full moon in the 5th, which is a lot around like visibility, maybe there is a chance for you to take some kind of chance in your life, like putting yourself out there on the dating market, or trying a new hobby that you haven't done before and having people witness you kind of flounder a bit as you're learning, or marketing yourself more, or trying to apply for some position that's outside of your range that you've never done before. There might be something like that where you have to reach and kind of expect more from yourself, and then also take up more space in some way or be seen in some way. But with the Six of Cups and Nine of Swords, this might cause a little bit of anxiety, and potentially it could be because maybe you've done something like this in the past and it didn't work out very well. So like maybe you did try to apply for a bigger role in the past and you got rejected, or maybe you did try to put yourself out there in terms of work or, you know, social media or visibility, but then people made fun of you, or it literally just didn't go anywhere. So there is this like feeling of things hanging over your head. And I also think that Venus in the 12th squaring Pluto in the 9th can be like stirring up fear around your kind of value and your worth and your visibility and notoriety and all those things. And not just like visibility, but it could be anything where you have to kind of put your confidence out there and take some kind of egoic risk where you could get rejected, or you could fail, or you could flop, and then you could feel embarrassed. And so I feel like a part of this is saying to this full moon is about working through some of that fear of failure, or even fear of success, and getting so like visible or getting so recognized or something like that, that it ends up bringing up like the fear of what could happen if that did result. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. But Yeah, there's quite a few messages here for you, Gemini. I think there's a lot going on, but just remember that it's okay to rest. It's okay to reimagine what is abundance for you, and it's okay to put yourself out there. And sometimes the ego might be scared of that, but it's worth whatever is on the other side. So that's what I see for you, Gemini. If that resonates, let me know in the comments down below. And don't forget to like, hype, and subscribe. I am trying to grow my channel, so any kind of interaction is really, really appreciated. And hopefully we can reach 12,000 by the end of the year. Maybe you're an early subscriber. That would feel like incredible to have you along for that whole journey. And I really appreciate you guys. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, next we have Cancer rising and sun. So this full moon in Libra is happening on April 1st in your 4th house, Cancer. So you guys might be having some changes and fluctuations going on within your family. And it's a potential that if that is one of the areas that's affected, that it could be causing some degree of stress. The reason is because the ruler of this full moon is Venus, and Venus is in your 11th, squaring Pluto in the 8th. This does make me feel like there could be some psychological things going on here with Pluto in the 8th, almost like maybe your idea of the way forward in something in your life could conflict with your family's idea, or maybe there is stuff brought up from the past that is, or like around your dynamics within family members that's coming to the surface, that's causing some tension that you have to work through. So maybe people kind of trigger you, push on certain buttons of yours, or bring up like an ongoing theme and pattern that you have within the dynamic of your family. You might find, again, that there is some power play, push and pull dynamics going on, especially when it comes to planning and what's in the future and what different people want. And this could also be something that's largely internal. So if it's not involving your family, maybe it's involving your inner world where you are in some conflict internally. Maybe you're being pushed to grow in some way, especially with the sun in your 10th house. There could be some major career opportunities and career growth for you, but it's really like you're reaching that edge and that threshold where you are kind of getting, you're being challenged in order to evolve into this next level within your career or within some kind of goal that you have. And it could really trigger some of those fears, some of those insecurities, self-doubts. It could bring up relationship issues as well. If you're having some friendship issues, you might feel less secure about where you're living, or just emotionally within yourself. You might find that there's a bit more friction with people around you. And yeah, I mean, this is a time where we're meant to kind of get out of our comfort zone in a lot of ways. So if there are relationships like family or friends that are getting in the way of that growth opportunity for you out in the world, or if there's like habits and this kind of comfort zone that you've just been in general, like old behaviors, that's getting in the way of your growth in your career, your goals, that's really going to become highlighted at this time in order for you to move past. Saying that, you might feel a strong degree of discomfort, but you also could feel a lot of optimism and growth and excitement, and they could be maybe not in equal measure, but they're both coexisting. And this is why I love astrology, because it doesn't flatten us to a specific viewpoint or way of being. We can have many competing and conflicting ways of being. And that's what I see at this full moon, especially because it squares Jupiter in your 1st house. There's a huge emphasis here on you going through a massive rebirth, a massive up-leveling, and a growth spurt. And in order for that to happen, we really have to feel the pressure of our old life closing in on us. And we're like, get this away from me. I'm ready to move on to this next version of myself. And I pulled the rainbow card. So soon I think you're going to really be seeing, if not at this full moon, then shortly after, you're going to see that rainbow at the end of a storm. So all of this pressure that I've been cooking in, all of these things that I've been feeling tension about, these anxieties or uncertainties that have come up, all of this was me moving through the birth canal of life to get to the other side of this massive growth spurt that I'm going to go through, where I'm going to be showered down with rainbows and blessings and opportunities and basically that next exciting, enlivening chapter of your life. Yeah, Five of Wands in reverse. I mean, really, I think this is upright, but you guys might just feel like an inner conflict or conflict with others. Just like I was saying, I mean, I feel like I have that message really quite clear. Is there something, Spirit, that I haven't addressed that Cancer needs to hear? I think Five of Wands in reverse can also speak to you are going to naturally stand above the rest, even if you get even if you're in a competitive role or you get people pushing back on what you're saying. I think that with Jupiter in your sign, this is your time to naturally shine, to naturally kind of take center stage and have more dominance in some way. And not, I think also when we tend to do that and we shine our light really bright, we will often attract people trying to pull on us or drag us down or change direction. So this is saying that you will outshine, you will outcompete, and you don't need to stoop to other people's level that are trying to detract from your energy, if that is the case. We have the High Priestess as well. I think one of the messages that is very clear with Jupiter in your sign is that you are quite psychic. And you really can lean into this a lot more. I think that this energy here with Jupiter, I mean, we're already halfway through Jupiter moving through Cancer. You only have till June 30th to access this energy. Of course, Jupiter is always available to us in general, but this is like really pushing you to grow within this from now until the end of June. And your intuition is really going to be giving you a lot of these kind of segues and roads and things to go down. And it's important that you listen, even if you don't know where that road is taking you, because Jupiter in your sign, again, is this kind of auspicious and fortuitous pocket or window of our life that only happens every 12 years. And if you don't take it, I think you will regret it. And I hate to be like doomsday, I don't want to say that, but there's something here around this. Is very important to listen to your intuition, because the timing of things is essential. And if you don't get on the bus will leave. And I'm sure the bus will return, but things will be different at that time. It'll be a different bus, different people on the bus. And there's just something about this period of time that you really want to embrace what your intuition is telling you to do. Even if the road is quite long with the Seven of Pentacles. And that's something with Saturn in the 10th. You are building a legacy. You are building something that is going to last a test of time. And because of that, it will take time to build. But with the Queen of Pentacles, it's going to be something that nourishes you. And I think about this like with a business, I said this in the last group, often with a business, or like I think of businesses as like building an ecosystem. You plant a tree, you plant some flowers, you dig out the ground and put water there. And then you go back year after year and you see that it creates this whole ecosystem. It brings all these animals and these living creatures all to coexist with each other where there was nothing before. So there's something about that where you're creating an ecosystem, or you're going to make something in your life that generates a lot of new life from it, and it affects many different people, and it brings many people together, and it has this opportunity to give to you and give to others in this 10 of Cups way that is very emotionally fulfilling. So that's what you're building, and that takes time, but it's so worth it, because again, it can kind of increase tenfold or have the capacity to reach many, many others and ripple out. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Cancer. Trust in this process, trust the visions that are coming to you now, and let me know in the comments down below what it is that you feel like you're building. Even if you're not exactly sure, what's your intuition really telling you? Because I'm very curious about that. Also, please support my channel by hyping this video, liking it, subscribing. I'm really trying to grow, and I appreciate your support along the way, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, next we have Leo rising and sun. This Libra full moon happening on April 1st is taking place in your 3rd house. And there is something interesting going on with this full moon because it's squaring Jupiter in your 12th house. And the 12th house is often where we have hidden aspects of the self come to light, and especially when in contact with a full moon in the third, which is already illuminating our conscious mind. So it's bringing the unconscious to the conscious. It's making us aware of behaviors and attributes that we might have in our life that have been operating on autopilot outside of our awareness and bringing those to light. And I pulled the cave card. So there's something about these behaviors that might be shadowy. And I think that's something that a lot of us are experiencing right now because this full moon is ruled by Venus, and Venus is in your 10th and squaring Pluto in your 7th. So there's a lot here that can come up, especially around control and relationships and the direction of something or your career around something. You could have some shadowy sides of yourself, like who gets the final say, or who dominates who, or whose perspective you're really listening to. There's something about that could, again, come up right now, and you might not recognize where at times you are acting unconsciously. Be very aware at this full moon if you're starting to make excuses for something, if you are starting to blame someone or something outside of you, if you are kind of going into a reactive or defensive type of behavior. These are often ways that we find that we use to protect ourselves against the shadow self. And it's important not to have shame around these behaviors or the shadows that we have, because we all have them. And guys, I have been through a deep dive into my dark sides that happened when Pluto moved over my moon and then squared my Venus. It was actually so enlightening to move from seeing yourself as a certain kind of person. I'm a great person. I don't do things that are wrong. And it's like, oh, actually, there are ways in which our shadows and our dark sides are really prevalent, but we just don't always see them, or we don't always do them consciously. So there's something about that where I feel like you could have certain behaviors that have been active, maybe in, again, relationships or career dynamics, and you might really start to become aware of them right now. And it's very powerful to not just shed light on them, because that is powerful, because you see yourself more holistically and you take more responsibility, but also to accept with and kind of accept and work with and love those parts of yourself. That's where the real power is. Instead of being really afraid of being selfish or wanting to have control or wanting to be in the spotlight or I'm just listing off Leo things, or wanting to, or maybe you fear those things, or maybe you have like ego that comes out, or I don't know. It's going to be different for everybody. But when you start to see those shadow sides come out, instead of fearing those things in yourself, how do we see them, acknowledge them, and love them? Like pour care and compassion into them, because it's usually coming from a wounded place, right? Like those things popped up in order to protect ourselves, or because they're just part of what it means to be human. And regardless, it's like those parts of us need support. So you might be feeling, again, maybe a little bit of resistance or push and pull with someone else at this time, especially when it comes to the direction of something or to the career around something, to the growth of something. You might feel that resistance from another. And it's important to reflect on yourself and how you are maybe reacting or having defenses. With the Four of Pentacles especially, you might have certain like protective mechanisms at play. We have the Eight of Wands and Four of Pentacles. So there's almost something here around like a lot of growth that wants to happen. Things want to really get moving and things want to really accelerate in your life. Maybe somebody is pushing you to grow or pushing you to succeed, or maybe something is like forcing you to go after something in a big way, or like evolve and elevate your life. It's almost like a coach. A coach comes in and be like, you can do this. You can go way harder. And it's almost triggering to you of like, don't tell me what to do. I'm not saying that this is this exact scenario, but it's something like that where sometimes someone else knows what's best for your personal evolution. Maybe they know that you can achieve more, you have more potential, or there's something there that if you just engaged with it more, that it would accelerate your life in a big way. But maybe there's some resistance around that and some defensiveness of like protecting yourself because you don't want to do that for whatever reason. But it's something that's keeping you smaller or keeping you down. And I feel like this full moon in the third house is trying to expand your mind and make these unconscious limitations and unconscious behaviors come to the surface. So you can see that actually I am capable of more. And if people are pushing on my buttons, it's only because they're here to teach me that I have more to offer the world or myself. And if people are trying to maybe, if I feel that something is being taken from me, it's like, how do I respond to that? And how can I examine that resistance? We have the Eight of Cups in reverse. It's almost like a fear of walking away from something, a fear of moving on from something, maybe a comfort zone, maybe something you've always done it in a specific way. You know, Leo, you're a fixed sign, so you can kind of get into like your head about this is the way, and you can get a little fixated on that. And this person or this thing or whatever in your life is trying to help you maybe innovate or improve something or see a better way around something. And I could see just a lot of resistance around this. Maybe you need to just change your mind and you don't maybe realize that like you're the bottleneck or you're the thing keeping things smaller or stuck. Or maybe you're the one responsible for something. If there's a negative outcome, maybe you are contributing it to it, at least in some capacity. And I think somebody's going to be here to push back on that, to be like, look, there's so much more that you could do. And like, you just have to do this. And it might involve some change, and that could feel kind of scary. Two of Cups, the Star. Yeah, I think that you actually, there's so much potential within a collaboration or a relationship or involving somebody else. Like there's so much potential within that dynamic. But I think that you need to be able to soften and let that person in or that advice in or that support in some way, and let down some of those defenses that could be coming from more of the shadow self that might want to keep somebody at arm's length or might reject their opinion or reject their support or collaboration. There's something here of like letting that person in, receiving that support, and trying to work through some of those defenses that could come up that might have you wanting to keep them at arm's length. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Leo. I hope that this is helpful and resonates. If it does resonate, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below what it's bringing up for you in your life right now and where you maybe feel like you are having that kind of edge of resistance being met and being pushed past. Please support my channel. I'm trying to grow my subscribers, so anything like hyping it, liking it, subscribing my video is so appreciated, and I hope that you guys have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, my student Virgo rising and sun. So this Libra full moon happening on April 1st is taking place in your second house of finances and self-worth and priorities. And I actually feel like even though this moon is in the second house and it could represent maybe some kind of ideas and things coming to you around your money and what you want to do to make more money or make money in different ways or something around work, I think that there is some really core concept here around thinking bigger. And maybe you have limited the way that you made money or thought how money could be made or your sense of abundance or what prosperity is or how to like set up your work-life balance or how to structure your days. Like there's something about that I think needs to go through a little bit of like a revolution in a positive way. And I say that because the ruler of this full moon, Venus, is in the 9th house in its home sign, which is really good because it helps you think about like a better way of doing something, a way to improve the system of something or like the outlook of something. So this could especially speak to your financial outlook. Like, how do I improve my financial outlook? How do I think more abundantly? But it's squaring Pluto in the 6th. So there's something about the structure of your day, or the limitations of your schedule, or maybe even health limitations or mental health, like anxiety and emotional imbalances, or maybe there's like systemic issues within the the way that your life runs in general, or maybe a job that you have that's like limiting you in some way, or something like that, that's going to, or even issues with coworkers, that's going to rub up against this idea of abundance. And I think that you guys are meant to be really embracing your excitement about the ideas and opportunities that are coming to you, especially now, but over these next few weeks as well, for how to grow your abundance, how to make money, or think differently about your resources, or about just like opportunities that are on the horizon for you. This could also be social opportunities as well, because this full moon is squaring Jupiter in the 11th. So Jupiter in the 11th can speak to maybe growing a community, maybe making new friends. It could also speak to, again, having kind of new goals and plans that you're implementing to make more money. So there's some kind of idea of wanting to grow resources or people in your life in some way. Basically, a support system, financial or emotional support systems, are going to be able to really take off over these next few months. And this full moon is helping you gain some clarity and insight around that. But again, Venus in the 9th is being squared by this Pluto in the 6th. There are either existing limitations or kind of like even subservient type of mindsets, or playing it small type of mindsets, or stressors or whatever, that could potentially detract from this excitement. Maybe somebody else has opinions that are saying you can't do that, or maybe again you're used to thinking small, or the systems in your life really need to be updated to make room for this growth opportunity. But there's something around that needs to update, and then once it does, you can really start to see yourself expand. But the core is listening to the excitement that you get from this opportunity, the excitement that you get at this new idea, maybe this new relationship, or this new like business idea or something like that. Like really ride out that fire and think about how you can make room for it in your life, instead of like thinking about why it wouldn't work, or listening to people or opinions or reasons and excuses why it wouldn't work. Okay, Spirit, what else do you have for Virgos here? With the sun in the 8th house, I do think that, and with Saturn there as well, maybe at times you could get in your own head a little bit about, again, why something wouldn't work, or why you can't do it, specifically you, like maybe your own insecurities or fears or something. But with the Jupiter in your 11th, I think focusing on the idea of this being a long-term project, not that it has to be slow, but that it's something that it doesn't have to be rushed, right? Like I can jump into this, I can take action towards this, but it doesn't need to be this like fully fledged overnight. It's something that I can start now, and it will slowly accumulate into being something big, right? So it's like, I don't have to immediately get my book published. I just have to, and create this magical thing overnight. I just have to sit down and write one chapter a day. Then eventually I'll have the book. And then from that place, then I can go get a, query it to agents. Like there's something about this where it's like, it's okay if it takes one step at a time, or maybe it's something that you launch out into the world and you start to build a business, and you just get, maybe a customer a month or a customer a week. And then you start building, and it slowly accumulates over time. And not to allow yourself to like already start to project worst case scenarios onto this thing before you've even put it out into the world or even tried it. So it's like, if you meet a new person, don't project onto them that, oh, they're going to be like all the other people, they're going to not like me, and we're going to have issues. Or if you have an idea, don't automatically say, oh, I can't make that happen. Like, don't put those worst fears into it, because, and especially before you get started, but also even after you get started, if it's slow, understand and reframe your mind to recognize that this is good if it builds slowly over time. If the relationship takes time for us to really get to know each other and we're not rushing things, that's a good thing. If this goal or whatever, I'm really passionate, really excited, but it's not an immediate thing overnight, that's a good thing because it's building your resilience and capacity to even hold this new kind of abundance or this new thing in your life. Okay. A bunch of cards keep wanting to come out for you. 8 of Wands, 9 of Wands, and Knight of Swords. Okay, that's so funny because I'm sitting here and be like, it's okay if it's slow. And then all the fastest cards possible are coming out. The 8 of Wands and Knight of Swords are so, so fast. So I actually feel like it might be initially slow with something where maybe there's some resistance or you have to figure out some logistics of something. Or maybe there's like a lot of behind the scenes things that you have to work on or foundations that you're building with somebody. And then it's like it's going to hit this acceleration point. What do they call that in space? I said this the other day in a video. It's going to hit this point where it's starting to, this mass, what is that? Please let me know in the comments down below. Where it reaches this critical mass. Yeah. And then it starts accelerating in a really big way. And I actually think that that's going to bring you new struggles with the 9 of Wands. Like I think that the idea of it developing really quickly, it could happen at some point in the future. So it's almost like let things be slow now because it might start to accelerate in a really big way. And then you have the stress of it of that being its own issue, right? Where things are just developing so fast, like that you almost don't even know how to manage it, you know? So it's like, just allow things to take things one step at a time, especially if it's coming to something that is going to build resources or relationships, and then allow that critical mass point to just take you further and then deal with those different issues at that point. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Virgo. This seems like a really exciting reading. Time to embrace more in your life, more abundance, more opportunity. So I really hope that you do take it. Let me know in the comments down below what that thing is that you are trying to bring to life. I'm really excited to hear from you if this resonates. And I really appreciate also if you support my channel by hyping the video and liking it and subscribing, of course, if you haven't. And I hope you guys have a great day. Bye. All right, it makes you have Libra, rising, and sun. So April 1st, Libra, there is a full moon in your sign. And this is a pretty significant time overall because we are just starting the astrological new year. We have all planets direct, but it's a big time for you specifically because obviously this is a full moon in your sign. And the planetary ruler of Libra is Venus. And Venus is in domicile, which is good, but she's also squaring Pluto. So one of the things that you might notice is that you might feel a little bit in your head. With Venus in your 8th house, squaring Pluto in your 5th, you could potentially be worrying about something that you want. Maybe you're kind of obsessively thinking about something that you desire or that you fear from happening, or something impeding your desires or complications around your desires. And it could just send you a little bit out of the present moment. And so part of what this Swan card is speaking about is trying to live more in the now, not try to anticipate or worry or fritter away mental energy that you could be used to focus in on the here and now, and also what is going well in the here and now. So if there is something that you are trying to manifest, or if there's something that you are scared is going to happen, how can you bring yourself back into the present moment instead of kind of projecting far out in advance? And it's not that we're not in a time of planning and you know, trying to figure out our future. It's not that we don't want to do those things, but I feel like it's easy to go overboard at this full moon. We do have the luck and the prosperity of this full moon squaring Jupiter in your 10th house. Again, this could be quite good for planning, where you get some kind of idea, initiative. Maybe you see some way that you want to grow something in a certain direction in your life. Maybe you decide that you want to move. Maybe you decide you want to like change up your career, grow within your career. Maybe you want to elevate your life in some way with the 10 of Cups, maybe something related to children or to family or something that's going to bring you a lot of emotional fulfillment. It's going to really vary, but it's something that you want very deeply and that you know is going to bring you a lot of happiness. And I just see you kind of living in that moment. And it could, again, kind of create this imbalance in terms of the now, especially if you see that contrast with where you are now. It could maybe make you feel a little bit, I was going to say depressed, maybe not depressed, but yeah, I don't know. With the Devil in reverse and the King of Wands in reverse, I could see you having trouble managing your energy if you're getting ahead of yourself. That's what I see, is getting ahead of yourself. And that's really common when planets square Jupiter. It's easy to see the end result. It's easy to see the vision in action. And to have to come back to where you're at can be sometimes painful or uncomfortable. The King of Wands in reverse, I also see this as a kind of toxic and domineering type of energy. And the Devil in reverse is getting out of any kind of patterns with that. I wonder if this is related to another person. Because we do have the Sun and Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron all in your 7th house right now. Luna doesn't like that. Let me pull a clarifier for this, because there is, again, some pretty intense energy right now in your relationship house. We have the Chariot and the 8 of Wands. Oh, okay. This is what I'm hearing. Okay, this could potentially be another person, but I feel like for most of you, there is like an internal person that's like pushing you, like almost like a little boss or like authority figure that's like, you got to do this better, faster, there's an urgency, you got to get all this done, and I don't know, almost like applying a lot of pressure on yourself. And it is potentially from another person or a situation, or maybe it's compounded by those events. But I could see that you guys maybe just have so much that you want to accomplish, or maybe you want to go a far distance, or maybe you have a big goal, or maybe it's such a big vision that it's almost like, you can't eat the elephant, right? You got to take one bite at a time. You can't accelerate super fast and not miss important details. You know what I mean? It's like, and keep yourself regulated. It's something about, how do I move quickly and towards a big goal while also being present and maintaining a really calm energy and the sense of, I don't know, like almost like a connection to your higher self instead of this nervousness, if that makes sense. And yeah, so I feel like you guys, it's like you maybe want to do everything all at once, or you just have like a big appetite for something, but it seems like a really exciting time. So let's see, Spirit, what's like the main message here for them? I wonder if Venus in the 8th, the only thing I would say is to not be driven by what you don't want. Be really aware that you're not feeding into that energy, because sometimes that can happen with our future goals and our wishes. Sometimes we can have such a focus on what we don't want to happen that we're almost running from something rather than running to something. So that's a big message with Venus in the 8th squaring Pluto. Like you might be scared of something manifesting, like with your children or with something that you really want. Maybe you're scared of never having it, and so you push and you rush and you get this like sense of urgency because of that. It's like, what if we trusted a little bit more in the process and the unfolding here? And maybe there's some kind of collaboration element. There's something around relationships because of this Sun and Saturn in the 7th. How do relationships play a role in this, Spirit? We have the 10 of Wands. Maybe relationships are potentially adding a little bit more stress. Like maybe you have certain responsibility towards people. That's very common with Saturn in the 7th, especially if it shows up in your solar return chart, which let me know down below if you want a video on how to read that. But Saturn transiting through the 7th can also indicate, again, a responsibility towards someone else that you are going to have. Or maybe that a relationship is adding stress, or maybe that a relationship can come in here and help you alleviate stress. So let's see, because I feel like that's really unclear. Spirit, what is the message here around relationships in this 10 of Wands? the Ace of Pentacles. Anything else? The Wheel of Fortune. I feel like for some of you, there could be a business relationship that could alleviate some of the stress and responsibility on your shoulders, or maybe another kind of like collaborative dynamic with somebody that could really take away a lot of your responsibility and could give you, I feel like it's a new relationship that could form, or maybe a new goal that you could go about with an existing relationship that has the potential to really succeed and like bring about good fortune into your life. And I think it would help alleviate maybe some of the pressure that you're feeling now. So someone else is going to play a really key role in this. Page of Cups. I think that maybe somebody else could come in here and support you in a way that allows you to be more in your feminine or more intuitive. Maybe there are some people here who could get a masculine type of support. This doesn't have to be a man, of course, but it's more just like the energy of a container, of someone who's maybe good at planning or logistics, or yeah, I don't know. I see somebody else coming in here that could help bring a vision of yours to life and take some of the stress from your shoulders and leave you in more of this flowy feminine energy rather than needing to control things and like have a lot of pressure on your shoulders. Like I really get the sense that somebody is coming in here to support something to come to life for you, support your vision to come to life. Anything else, Spirit, for them? The Six of Swords, the King of the Strength, Page of Wands reverse. Okay, this is too many things going on here. Way too many things. But yeah, I definitely do feel like somebody, because I got the Two of Cups and I got the King of Swords and King of Pentacles. I definitely feel like there's somebody in here that's maybe got some earth and air that is very practical. Maybe they're good at logistics. Maybe they're good at like structuring things or business, and they can kind of come in and help you set something up in a really positive way. And again, gender is irrelevant, but it's some kind of partnership here that could be very helpful for you. We have the Page of Wands in reverse and Knight of Pentacles. I also think that it's somebody who is going to help bring you to reality a little bit. Like you're kind of the free spirit and like, we could do this and we could do that. And I feel like somebody is going to help ground your vision to reality in a way that may feel limiting at times, but is also really necessary with Saturn in the 7th to actually see this thing through. The Knight of Pentacles can represent kind of slowly building something from the ground up and not this kind of like all, very loosey-goosey kind of way. And if this is not somebody else, then this is you meant to be doing this for yourself. But I think a lot of people it will be a partnership. We have the Six of Swords and the Strength as well. I think this is going to require a lot of like mastering your own ego or your own demons. Not demons, because it's way too intense of a word, but I'm just getting like mastery over the self in order to have this go well. Because again, I think other people, the person that's coming in or the energy that you need to embody, if it's yourself, is quite different from you, or it's like it's maybe it's a little bit more rigid and disciplined. So either somebody else or yourself has to do that, and you might push back a little bit. Your free spirit might want to like rebel against that a little bit. And I'm getting the message here that you guys really need to be able to rein yourself in and allow yourself to be led by the discipline, but also in your feminine and creative. So don't lose that essence and that gift, but don't let the feminine run wild either, because then you won't actually accomplish this big vision, this big goal. And in order for this to go smoothly, you need to be contained or have some container for the vision, some consistency. And again, this could either be you, which I think could be for some of you, but I think a lot of you need a partner or somebody who has different values, not goals, but like, yeah, kind of like they prioritize things differently than you. And it's good. You both have, maybe one of you is a creative, prioritizes the creativity or the relationship aspect or the freedom aspect. Another one of you prioritizes the logistics and the planning and whatnot. And together you bring this vision to life in a really I was going to say easeful way, but with this Venus squaring Pluto, there could be some fight for like power because you both really want this, or you really want this, and you don't want to give up control or something like that. So there's a lot of layers to this, but if you allow someone to come in who has that energy, or if you allow yourself to step into that energy to balance out this other side of you, you will be able to bring this really big vision to life. And I think you will get a lot of happiness from doing that. So that's what I see for you, Libra. I hope that this resonates. If it does, let me know what you're building and that big vision of yours in the comments down below. And if there is a person coming in, let me know, because I'm curious about if that relates to you. And I am trying to grow my channel to 12,000 subscribers by the end of 2026. So if you want to be a part of that journey, I appreciate that. If you would like, subscribe, and hype the video and comment. And I hope you guys have a great day. Bye. All right, I'm going to say Scorpio rising and sun. So for you guys, this Libra full moon is taking place on April 1st in your 12th house. And oftentimes full moons in the 12th can relate to something ending or transitioning out of our lives. And with the ruler of this full moon, Venus, being in the sign opposite you in Taurus in your 7th house, it might be something around relationships or contracts that are coming to a close. Maybe it's a commitment that you had with somebody else, or again, some kind of relationship that is going to be going through a type of ending or transition. And if there are people that are leaving your life, or if you are just like setting some kind of intention for the kinds of relationships that you want to attract, and you have specific desires maybe around where you want to live, or the kind of people you want to be around, or the kind of future that you want to have with people. Or it could be, it doesn't have to just be people, but keep that in mind. If you're setting your intention, you're putting that out there in the universe, this card says that the universe is listening. And a full moon on the 12th, it can leave you feeling quite uncertain, like you don't see around the corner. But it's also a very spiritual house. And it's one that signifies that we're going through an inner process of transformation, and that we are meant to be aligning our inner world with the outer world that we want to create. With the Nine of Pentacles, it might be a time where you actually could do quite well to be like more independent in certain ways. Actually, I don't know, because the ruler of this full moon is in your 7th. So I say that because a full moon in the 12th is often quite isolating, and we're usually spending more time alone. But with the ruler in the 7th house of relationships, it does make me wonder if that's not the right advice for you guys. So let's pull some cards around that. So I pulled the 9 of Pentacles, 6 of Cups, and 8 of Pentacles. So it's interesting because there is almost like a decline in energy here with the 9 of Pentacles and the 8 of Pentacles. And whenever I see something like that, it's almost like you need to take a step back from something, or yeah, maybe not like what you've learned about something, maybe you unlearn it, or maybe you, just like have to undo something a little bit. And then we have the 6 of Cups in between them. So yeah, there might be something here around like how you show up to relationships. Like if there are certain things ending and transitioning, let's say it's a relationship or a contract, it might be leaving your life and putting you into this state of metamorphosis so that you can reflect on almost like the 6 of Cups can be like childhood wishes or things that you have really wanted for a long time, or even like emotional things that you've had within you for a long time. The 6 of Cups could be desires, but it could also be like emotional baggage, or like or expectations that you've had for a long time. I feel like there's something around that you might need to shift a little bit. So it's like, oh, I thought that, let's see. We have the 4 of Cups and King of Swords. Yeah, I almost feel like there's a certain mindset that you guys are disengaging from, or maybe like a certain way of organizing your life or showing up to situations, especially like how you create meaning about it and how you understand it, which makes sense actually, because this full moon is squaring Jupiter in the 9th. So there's usually some kind of like belief shift that needs to happen. And maybe it's going to help you grow into this next level to shift this mindset. Yeah, maybe it's kind of like what I said before about aligning your inner world with the outer world that you want to see. So if something is changing your life or leaving, or if your manifestation isn't quite here yet for something that you really want, I feel like this is trying to say that there's still some internal things that need to shift to align the way that you are inside with what you want. And I think a lot of it comes from like your beliefs and your perspective and your way of analyzing situations, your way of reacting to situations. If you've been kind of reactive and responding from an unconscious place, it could be reiterating a certain mindset that is actually pushing away your manifestation. Not that it's not going to come, but almost like delaying it a little bit. And it's like, how do we embrace, like thinking about the feeling and the mindset of the person who is in that place already and trying to get there instead of feeling the lack, or instead of maybe being really stubborn about it appearing in a specific way, or holding on to the things that you have that are not right for you and that are trying to leave your life, or maybe a behavioral pattern that you keep engaging with that maybe is kind of self-sabotaging a little bit. Like there's something around this, I think, that's actually maybe unconsciously creating some resistance to the thing that you want. It's like saying, I really want to lose weight. I really, really want to lose weight. I really want to look a specific way. I really, really do. And then you come home every night and you eat like a tub of ice cream. And it's like, well, you're not aligning the behavior and like the mindset and the actions and things with the goal. And so, or maybe you're doing the thing, like maybe you're exercising, but you're doing it from a lack mindset. So it's like punishing yourself when you're exercising and having to earn your food, and almost like that stress on the body could make you gain weight. This moon is not about weight, but I'm just trying to illustrate it in a very obvious, like external example. So we have the 9 of Cups, the 10 of Wands, and the 6 of Wands. Yeah, I really feel like there's something that you want. There's some kind of desire, some intention, some manifestation that you're putting out there. Like, I want to live in this type of house. I want to have this kind of relationship. I want to have this kind of job. I want to feel like this in my body or in my life or in my friendships. But then the 10 of Wands is like the way that you're going about it. There's something about it that's off. Or there's some kind of cycle that you're in, or like internal dialogue or something that is creating resistance to it, or making this goal and this thing harder to reach you, making it heavier. Or maybe you're dwelling on like a negative mindset, or maybe again you're self-sabotaging a certain way. Maybe you feel powerless to certain things in your life, which makes sense when Mars, your planetary ruler, is in Pisces. Maybe you're quite passive and you're feeling powerless to things and not recognizing where you have the ability to make changes or take responsibility to get out of something. There's something like that where I feel like this full moon is going to illuminate where you're creating unnecessary strain and burden on yourself in relation to that desire. And once you expose that and bring that to light, I see the 6 of Wands. I feel like you're going to be successful in overcoming it and growing in confidence as you do. And this is before you get the goal or the intention. I see you guys growing in confidence that is going to come to you, and aligning your behavior and your dialogue and everything with that thing. And then it makes it really easy to manifest. I usually kind of hate talking about manifestation. Like there's a tarot reader, I'm not going to say who. She always talks about manifestation. Every single video is about manifestation, like how to manifest and like the steps to manifest. And I find it so annoying. Because there's only so much you can say about it. But I kind of feel like that's exactly your message here today, ironically. Is there something happening in the manifestation process that's being inhibited or slowed down or made to be challenged because of your, especially internal approach to something? Any last messages here? I feel like, yeah, let me pull a goddess card. Any last messages here, Spirit, for Scorpio? Your message felt kind of abstract. Focus. Yeah, I feel like you need to focus on what you want to create. Focus on where you're headed. Focus on what somebody who has that thing would focus on. I think if you're feeling distracted, if you're feeling helpless, or you're focusing on what you don't want or what isn't going right, and you're like wallowing in self-pity, which is really common when your planetary rulers in Pisces. The shadow side of Pisces is feeling like a lot of victimhood mentality sort of thing. If you're in that space, you're really disempowering yourself, and you're taking away and creating from that manifestation, creating resistance around it. Instead, how do you focus on the plan, on what you want, and go after it? And this is going to be a lot easier when Mars moves into Aries. So keep that in mind. You might notice the victimhood mentality is easier to access right now because of this placement, but soon enough it will be in Aries, and then you will have a little bit more of your gumption back. So that's what I see for you, Scorpio. Let me know if that resonates. I'm curious because this was an interesting sort of abstract message for you guys. If it does, let me know what it applies to in your life down below. And if you want to support my channel, I am trying to grow to 12,000 subscribers. So I really appreciate a like, a subscribe, a hype, anything like that on my channel is really greatly appreciated. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right. Up next, we have Sag rising and sun. For you, Sag, this Libra full moon happening on April 1st is taking place in your 11th house of friendship and community. And I did pull this crow card, which speaks to knowing when to fight back or like defend something or get to the bottom of something, and when to relinquish control, when to surrender, when to trust, and when a battle isn't worth fighting or, getting into conflict over. So there's something around this where other people may present some kind of opposition to you in some capacity. And maybe they have a different idea of something, or maybe they just have a different intention or goal or something like that, a different perspective. And there could be this sense of like being obstinate and I get this like visual of like bouncing off of something, like a shield pops up and you bounce off of it. Kind of like the Seven of Wands energy. I almost feel like, can you absorb it? Can you take maybe that conflicting energy or a different perspective or whatever and not put up a wall, put up defenses and have to do something about it? With Venus, the planetary ruler of this full moon, in your 6th, squaring Pluto in the 3rd, I could really see this creating more drama than necessary. And one of the pieces of advice that I gave at the beginning of this video was to not engage and not be reactive. Almost to focus on what the most important thing is and what the mission is in your life and what would create that sense of stability within yourself and in your life. And I think engaging and trying to like defend something or fix something right now may actually make it worse and destabilize other areas of your life that are going well or that you could put your energy into to grow. Venus in the 6th could also specifically describe work relationships or relationships with things that you encounter in your day-to-day life or with your pets. With squaring Pluto in the 3rd, that's causing some stress. So maybe it's some disagreements in the workplace. Yeah, it's like we got the 2 swords here. To me, this is like 2 different opinions, 2 different paths, a choice that needs to be made, being at a crossroads. Like, do I engage? Do I not engage? Do I agree with them? Do I not agree with them? There's this like impasse that I see here. It could be with you and another person, or it could just be even within yourself as well, where you're having like some inner turmoil around maybe a choice that you have to make. And we have the Devil in reverse, which is really representing like the need to not respond from a kind of prickly place or defensive place. And your planetary ruler is moving through your 8th house, Jupiter, And this full moon is squaring that Jupiter. So there's something about this, again, that I feel like could really bring up like your beliefs or your, like, especially beliefs that were like formed as a result of past instabilities or kind of triggering experiences or crises. You could have developed certain beliefs and perspectives as a result of those things. And then maybe something that happens now brings that back up. So like, let me give an example. Like, let's say you've had, let's say you have an abandonment wound because maybe you were, I don't know, abandoned as a child, or you had a loved one leave or pass away as a child or something. And then somebody does something now to trigger that abandonment wound. It's like, let's just not react to that. Let's recognize when there's some deeper healing within us and things that we could grow through, rather than trying to like fix this person abandoning us and trying to do it with them. It's like, let's deal with that within ourselves, rather than trying to like fix it with that person or outside of ourselves, if that makes sense. This could also be something that appears on social media or online or within your community, with this moon being in 11th house. This could be with a group of people. So it's like maybe there's something feeling a little bit off with a group of people, and normally you would want to like come in and say, this isn't right, like let's fix this, let's whatever this is, again, because maybe it's triggering something within you that's bringing up these old beliefs and wounds and stuff. But it's like, instead of trying to fix that dynamic with the group, just focus on yourself. I think that's the biggest key right now, is to really focus on yourself and your side of the street. And not get entangled in other people's business, not get entangled in things that kind of push you, because it's just not gonna help. It's really not gonna help you, and it's not gonna help the situation. Because with Venus square Pluto, people are gonna be defensive, people are gonna be tense. It's just not the time where people are gonna meet you where you're at, truly. Anything else, Spirit, that they need to keep in mind? My Sages. We have the Moon, we have the Fool in reverse, and the Nine of Pentacles. So the Moon represents context that you cannot see. Or maybe this is something coming up that you don't see yet. So it's either context to something going on right now, or again, a future event that is about to transpire that is unknown to you. And it could trigger potentially some fears because of the like things shifting in the background or things moving in your life, but you don't have a sense of control or visibility of all of these pieces moving around. So there could be some fears that are stoked within you because of like things that are unknown, or things that are changing, things that are shifting, or things that you can't quite put your finger on. And then we have the Fool in reverse. So there's some kind of change, a new beginning that you're being called into, but you're resisting this. With the Fool in reverse, there is often a fear around a new start, a fear around coming at something with a beginner's mindset, or again, just starting over in some way. And then we have the Nine of Pentacles, which is a card of like really trusting yourself to stand on your own 2 feet and to take care of yourself and to like do this thing on your own. So yeah, I mean, this could look different for a lot of you, but maybe it's that there are like, let me give an example of like a relationship, which there's not a lot of emphasis on the 7th house, which usually would speak to a romantic partner. But let's say like with the Moon and the Fool in reverse, there is some situation where maybe you have to start over in a certain relationship or in a certain area of your life, and you're not quite seeing like how this is going to go. Like if you have to make a new friend group, for example, but you're not sure how that's going to play out. And there's a lot of uncertainty there. And because of that uncertainty, you might feel quite a bit of fear. I feel like Spirit's advice is, instead of trying to figure out that friend group and that situation and everything, that's like the fresh start. Not that you don't have to figure it out, but because if it's just, how do I explain this? With the Nine of Pentacles, I think the biggest thing that you need to focus on is yourself, your stability, your routines, your finances, your independence. So if there's something in your life that is trying to have some kind of like push you to some kind of restart, it's like trust yourself that you can do this, basically. And don't worry about the things that you can't see yet, because there's so many moving pieces. Don't worry about that. Just trust that you can handle each thing as it comes in this new beginning. That was the message there. So that's what I see for you, Sag. If that relates to you, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below what this applies to in your life. And if you're going through some kind of new start that maybe feels a little bit scary for you right now. And please also don't forget to subscribe and hype the video and comment and share with your friends. I am trying to grow my channel to 12,000 subscribers by the end of the year, a lofty goal. And I would love for you to participate in that with me. And I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Capricorn rising and sun. So for you guys, this Libra full moon happening on April 1st is taking place in your 10th house. And I really feel like this message coming through for you guys could be specifically related to your career, of course, with this full moon being in that sector. But with this Buffalo card, this card speaks about authenticity, individuality, embracing what is unique about you, and not comparing yourself to others. And this is something that I feel like could really come up when it comes to your kind of career prospects, or maybe certain goals that you have in your life, or maybe even how you parent your children, or where you live, or some element of your life that you, again, maybe compare your journey to somebody else's. Maybe you see, I'm not as far along, or I'm not as good at this skill, or whatever it is. And this Buffalo card is really trying to speak to you guys, not even being in competition with others at all, recognizing that you are individually gifted at things that other people are not gifted at. You have your own take, your own life experiences, and your own perspective that is going to be the forefront of what people are attracted to you about, what is going to help you get ahead, like embracing your natural talents. And I think that this speaks to the fact that the ruler of this full moon, Venus, is in domicile in Taurus in your 5th house. And the 5th house is where we have, again, our natural talents and what makes us shine as individuals. And it's squaring Pluto in Aquarius in the 2nd. So I think that there's something about your gifts that you are devaluing, that you are not considering, that you are not, putting as high of a value on it as you do for others' talents. Pluto in Aquarius wants you to change that. It wants you to see that you have so much to offer the world. And you do that by embracing what makes you different. And so this full moon could be a really good time to think about what makes you different and to really dive deeper into that, and also into the layers that could get of messaging that could get in the way of you really seeing those unique gifts. This full moon also squares Jupiter in your 7th house. So this could speak to you being able to see relationships through a different lens as well. Because in the past, you might have seen relationships as competition, or you might have seen people, again, as something that you compare yourself against or don't measure up to. And this full moon is trying to get you to think about that differently. Maybe seeing relationships as collaboration to fill in gaps of things that you're missing, but it doesn't take away from your shine or your success. Other people's success doesn't get in the way of your ability as well. I really feel like there is some kind of new beginning that is meant to come through, especially in terms of finances and career, and you may be building something of your own that is individualized to you. So maybe making money in a new way, starting a new hobby, or if you want to do a passion project or a business, I could see you guys having some kind of new beginning with that, with this 9 of Pentacles Fool and Emperor card. But again, I think it really needs to be tailored to your specific interests and your specific strengths. And again, you can pull in other people to fill in those gaps, or you can see other people as resources or inspiration in certain ways, but not using relationships as a way to compare or cut yourself down or devalue your skills. So that's really, really important. I also feel like with the 10 of Wands and the Death, you guys are meant to be going at this in an easier way And I think that this square to Jupiter in the 7th could point to having some kind of support system. So there might be a better way or an easier way to go about your goals or to advance your career or to start a business or whatever that involves, again, a partnership or that allows you to expand because of some kind of support system through other people or through a contract or something like that. But this is meant to be, it's meant to transform this feeling of like having to work really hard or having to push yourself in the wrong kind of environment. And it's about doing things in the right environment. So if you're in like a toxic workplace, for example, and you're always comparing yourself to other people in that environment, it's like, well, it's because you're in the wrong space. Like you're trying to make something fit and you're putting all this pressure on yourself to make it work in this wrong space instead of moving to the right space and allowing yourself to thrive and recognizing what you're not good at and not trying to do those things, allowing other people to do the things that you're not good at instead, so that you can focus on what you do excel at. Of course, there's only so much leeway we have if we have a job, right? But this could be applicable to many areas of your life or to many things that you desire. The Eight of Wands and Devil in reverse, I also feel like this full moon is about like you seeing the limitless potential in things and seeing how things could really take off and allowing yourself to believe in that. Maybe other people become your hype master and they say, oh, you can totally do this. And you allow that in and start to see that, oh, that is possible. I could do this. I could make money in this way, or I could like advance myself in this way in life. And getting out of like the devil in reverse, getting out of these boxes that you might have put yourself in of like, it's got to look like this, or I have to reach this milestone by this age, or I'm behind, or I can't do that because of this reason. It's like, actually, those things are not true. Or they're just irrelevant. I think that's the biggest thing is like, that's actually irrelevant for what's going on. The Eight of Wands is like, you can have this thing and you can move quite quickly towards it. So you could really accelerate your life if you allow yourself to think outside of the box and embrace what's unique about you and not try to force something to fit and compare yourself to others in a way that is going to make you feel inadequate. So really, I think your message is quite clear here and straight to the point, Capricorn. Is there any last thing that wants to come through, Spirit, for them? Let me just pull one more card. Is there any... We have wisdom. I think that you guys need to trust that you have the wisdom already within you. Capricorn, you know, your planetary ruler, Saturn, just moved into Aries. This is about recognizing not only that you have wisdom, but it's time to act on that wisdom and not just kind of sit in a state of like enjoying it or basking in it, which is like very Saturn and Pisces. Like you get to bask in wisdom and what Spirit has to say for yourself in this personal journey. Saturn and Aries is about going out there and doing something with it and being constructive with the things that you've learned over these few years. And yeah, I think that this isn't a time to enjoy. This is a time to implement. And I really, really encourage you to trust your vision, to trust your wisdom, to trust your unique learning experiences, your unique perspectives, your unique take, and see the value in that and go out there and put that out into the world. And you will attract other like-minded people who feel similarly to you. So that's what I see for you, Capricorn. If this resonates, if this applies to you, let me know in the comments down below. I would really love to hear your story. Please also support my channel. I'm trying to grow my subscribers to 12,000 by the end of the year. We'll see. But if you'd like to be a part of that, I'd really appreciate it by liking, subscribing, hyping, commenting, sharing with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Aquarius, rising and sun. So for you, Aquarius, this Libra full moon happening on April 1st is taking place in your 9th house. And the sun is opposite it in the 3rd. So one of the things that immediately came through with this Lamb card is that there is a need to come back to a kind of innocent state of mind or like an openness and a curiosity. I think that you guys could... With this Libra moon, I feel like there could be some kind of preset perspectives, beliefs, expectations that may be defining your world a little bit too soon or creating too much rigidness. I think that you need more spontaneity. You need to open up to different perspectives and different ways of doing things, and the idea of novelty, The idea that you maybe don't know everything, or that you're inexperienced with certain things, and could question the world and see it through new eyes because you have, yeah, that's what I feel like you're meant to be, going back to a place of like inexperience, where you're a learner, where you're questioning things, where you don't have these presuppositions and assumptions. And I think you're going to gain so much from that. The ruler of this Libra full moon is Venus, which is in Taurus in your fourth house, squaring Pluto in the first. So I just feel like there's maybe some biases, or like things that you've become emotionally attached to in terms of your perspective, or your like behavioral habits, or even like your identity and your self-concept, things that you've latched onto that you might be kind of, that might be kind of ingrained in you. And it, again, it makes these assumptions quite natural for you. And I think that you're really meant to be getting out of this. Yeah, Five of Wands. This card keeps coming up a lot. I think that you're meant to experience some level of resistance right now from other people, or from your environment in some way. Maybe because, or maybe you've been quite closed off. Like this Five of Wands could also be you combative to others, of like, it's this way. This is the way I see it. Or I'm closed off. I'm a closed circuit. I'm not letting in new information or people to challenge my ways of seeing things. And it's like, it's not about being challenged. It's the fact that there might be things that you're overlooking. There might be assumptions that you're making that's causing you to overlook some really critical things that could benefit you, that could open up your world and allow you to be more like flowy and creative and spontaneous. And like there's some magic that can come from that. But I almost feel like there's something here of that could stop you from that. Six of Cups. Yeah, it's something that you've been, maybe it's something that has even existed for a long time, that you've had to like a perspective that you've had to survive, almost like, for example, like a scarcity mindset. Maybe you grew up without a lot of money and you've had a scarcity mindset, and you've always thought like work is hard and there's not a lot out there and you got to compete for the resources that are out there. And this is just an example. And so it's like you're kind of presupposing that, and you're putting that layer of filter on the world, and then you're expecting things to look like that, when things could be like, you could make money in ways that are fun and creative and spontaneous, for example. But you're not seeing those ways because of the beliefs that life looks like this and money looks like this, or I am like this and I've always been like this. I don't know. I just feel like there's something about this full moon that's really trying to challenge you to think differently and embrace curiosity and embrace uncertainty, and question what you already think you know. Let's see, Spirit, what does Aquarius need to know? I wonder if people in your family, if there's going to be some tension in your family with Venus in the fourth house, like within your family and your household, maybe there's some pushback against something that you want to do, for example. And it's not that there's like a right and wrong answer, but I do wonder if there's something that you hadn't considered. Secrets. Pluto can often represent secrets. What is this secrets about? Is the secrets you? Because Pluto's in your first house. Spirit, what is this secrets card about? We have the Emperor and the Queen of Wands. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that this can represent is being the one in charge. The Emperor is like the ruler. It's the highest possible authority within the tarot. And the Queen of Wands is somebody who's really creative, who's really confident, and they trust their judgment and intuition above all else. And they're not swayed by other people like criticizing them. So there's something about this where you might need to Let's see, what is the advice here? Nine of Pentacles, the Strength, the King of Pentacles, and Queen of Pentacles. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's something that you could build here because of these cards around being like structured and organized and financially savvy and growing a business or making more money or doing something to like, you know, protect and nurture your finances. Being Nine of Pentacles and Strength, being very like resilient on your own. There's some kind of message here around your finances that are coming through, that's coming through. And I feel like, I mean, I did give that example of like, oh, it's got to be scarce and it's got to be hard earlier. I almost wonder if there's some kind of perspective on that. And maybe there's a way for you to make money or to get money that's like supposed to be like, I don't know. I feel like you could be a badass with that in some way. Like there's some up leveling that you could do in personal power to make more money or somehow manage your money in a way that you haven't considered. And it's like it could actually be fun, or it could be like this exciting challenge instead of this like strict, super cautious and conservative and scared kind of energy. It's like, what if you could build something through a curiosity and like start exploring investments or start exploring like a business that you could run on your own or something like that to become more financially independent and stronger financially. And this doesn't just have to be money, but a lot of you, it will be something related to that. Yeah. I don't know. The Secrets card. I feel like the secret is that like you don't know how powerful you are. That's the message here. It's like there's some kind of power here where you can take control over something. But I think that you need to also let in other points of view or like consider other things that you haven't considered. So it's like you both need to have more power and like develop more control or like lead something in your life. You need to do that. And you also need to be a beginner and not take advice, but like listen to other like ideas of what could be possible. Because I think that there's something that you're not considering. So both of those things need to happen together. So it's almost like your business could make, let's say you're a business owner, your business could make way more money. You could get way more advanced in it. And that's where the Emperor comes in, and this sense of like managing and being the leader. But it can only do that by experimenting with maybe new facets of technology or social media or I don't know, whatever it is that you haven't thought about before and you haven't considered. And the only way to do that is to open your mind to that as a possibility and recognize that there's unknowns to you and like experiment and be more spontaneous with how you try things, but also create structure. So it's not like random spontaneity in the sense that you just do different things every day, but it's like, I'm going to try this for a few months and just see how it goes. Like there's something like that coming up for you, Aquarius, that I think that you have not considered. So hopefully this makes sense. But that's your message. If that resonates, let me know in the comments down below. I am trying to grow my channel. So if you want to support that, please like, subscribe, hype, share with your friends, any of the following, and I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, and last but not least, you have Pisces rising and sun. So for you guys, this Libra full moon on April 1st is taking place in your 8th house. And this could be a time in which you feel like certain thought patterns are exposed, especially thought patterns that have maybe created some, I don't know, I was going to say a little bit of self-sabotage. And the reason I say that is because Venus, the ruler of this full moon, is in your 3rd house, which is related to our thinking and our communication, and is squaring Pluto in the 12th, which the 12th house is often linked with self-sabotaging behaviors. If this is not related to that, this could also speak to having some kind of conflict with other people, maybe some power plays and like, you know, somebody trying to dominate another person, or there could be secrets exposed and things coming out, things that were left unsaid that are coming to the surface that that's finally being revealed to you. So there's a few different things that could happen. But if there is some kind of conversation that comes up at this time, you may find it very, exposing, very telling. And I'm curious what that brings up, because a full moon in the 8th is often quite emotional and can feel really charged. And Mars is in your first house as well. So this is a time in which you're already going through just having a little bit more kind of like fight to you or energy to you. So yeah, if this does bring up something with somebody else, I could see again this being something charged. I pulled the 5 of Wands. This has come out for most of the groups. And Venus squaring Pluto is quite confrontational. So I do think that this full moon could bring up conflict with people in general, differing points of view. And again, this could feel sensitive for you with this full moon being in your 8th, almost like it pushes on your worries or fears. But we have the Sun and the Ace of Wands. So I do think that you're going to have a really clarifying experience as well. So if this conversation brings things up for you, or if you have certain just ideas and things that come to mind at this full moon, I think you're going to recognize where you could have been holding yourself back, or could have been maybe giving your power away in certain circumstances. And I think you're going to really be waking up at this time. This feels like a very much a clarifying and action-oriented type of experience where you're seeing something clearly and you're getting out of passivity or being influenced by something unconsciously. You're waking up, you're coming online, and you're taking control and making the necessary moves to improve your life. With the Sun and the Ace of Wands, this also feels like you could be very inspired, and you can get a lot of kind of creativity coming from this. And so, I don't know, I feel like sometimes we have things that push us a little bit and they trigger us or irk us a little bit, but it becomes a source of inspiration. Like it's almost like, for example, if somebody calls you out on something and they're like, you always say that you're gonna, do X, Y, and Z, and then you never follow through. In the immediate moment, the reaction could feel, get off my back. Don't tell me that. Like, don't irritate me or whatever. And it could feel maybe just triggering a little bit, but then you could process some of that and you're like, you know what? They're right. I really do want to do that thing. I keep making excuses because of this insecurity and not recognizing that. Almost like having like a therapist reveal something to you and you can see it so clearly, and exposing something about yourself that was hidden from you. And once that's exposed, then you're like, actually, there's so much that I can do with this now. And now that I'm moving past that hurdle, that inner hurdle that I had, there's so much inspiration, because I'm like, okay, I'm excited about what's ahead now. I'm no longer maybe feeling self-doubt or whatever this is. Or if you have to have a fight with somebody to clear the air, it's like once that's cleared, then it feels so light and it feels so free and you're reconnected and things feel reinvigorated. So there's something like this going on where it can be helpful to confront the fear, confront the shadow, confront the thing that you were overlooking. Awakening, again, we have the Judgment, which is an awakening card. So this could be like a spiritual awakening where you're, again, taking some kind of ownership. And once you come online and you see something for what it is, you can't unsee it. And I think it's doing that is a little bit of an uncomfortable process. But once you do that, again, I think you're going to have such a clarity of vision of where you want to go and an excitement about things again. Page of Swords and Nine of Swords. Yeah, I almost feel like you're meant to be reframing the things that you were fearful about. So if you were holding yourself back out of fear, or if you had a lot of anxiety about something in your life, or maybe perpetuated some anxiety through certain behaviors, I feel like you're reframing it with the Page of Swords. You're questioning it. You are having important conversations about it, having important realizations about it. Yeah, instead of letting those thoughts kind of get in the way. So if like, let's say this is like around intimacy and like really connecting or working with somebody in a deep way. maybe you had a lot of resistance around that deepening of the connection, and maybe certain walls up, and then maybe your therapist or that partner or somebody calls you out on it, and then you're like, actually, yeah. And then because of that, you're able to start deepening the connection and reframing your fears around it, and not, yeah, I don't know, like having a more exciting relationship because of your ability to face that. What else, Spirit? What else is this full moon displaying? Radical acceptance. That's exactly it. It's like you're able to radically accept this situation and who you are and what life is like, instead of maybe suppressing it to some degree, or acting like, I don't know, it's like once you awaken, you see something and you have to radically accept it and then take responsibility and act differently because of that. That's what I'm seeing. It's like the reality is becoming undeniable, but it's a good thing. Like the Sun and the Ace of Wands, it's not like, oh, I have to take responsibility for all the ways I've hurt people, and it's like this really sad thing. I don't see it like that. I see it as something that is uncomfortable to awaken to, but it must be around awakening to your personal power, or awakening to how you've held yourself back, or something like that, that actually, once it's illuminated and moved past, there's actually so much beauty on the other side of it. It's something quite, again, life-giving and invigorating and clarifying. I'm very curious. Let me know in the comments down below what area of life this relates to for you. Let me see, Spirit. Is there any other messages around what you, like this? Okay. The World. Yeah, there's some kind of cycle completing. I feel like maybe you've been in a really uncomfortable cycle, either with relationships or with some other area of your emotional life. And I feel like that cycle is coming to a close because you are awakening to some kind of pattern, thought pattern that you were in. And you're recognizing that things could be a lot brighter and a lot better. And yeah, I just think it's, again, coming to a close. I mean, this is the start of the astrological new year. You know, Saturn, Neptune were in your sign for a long time, and now it's finally changed. And I think this new year is, the Sun in Aries is really kicking off this fresh start for you, this closing the cycle. And I think, you know, this could be around relationships or something else. It's just really coming to a close. And I think you're ready to act in new, more vibrant, excited ways rather than kind of unconscious ways. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Pisces. Please do let me know in the comments down below what you think this could be pertaining to, because I'm really curious. And I am trying to grow my following on YouTube to 12,000 subscribers. If you want to be a part of that, please like and subscribe and hype. I know hyping the video really helps, apparently. So please do that. And I really appreciate your support, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye.